get into the recap, shall we? So yesterday was the 37th day of protesting in Elizabeth City, North Carolina over the police shooting and murder of Andrew Brown Jr. And, I just want to say 37 days. Like, that's a long time. Like, let's be honest, folks. Like, we got to, like, give me a pat on the like, I'm serious. 37 fucking days. Like, look at my hair. It's a mess. Look at my fingernails. They're all broken. But, I mean, we've been out here in the streets for 37 days in a row. And it's pretty incredible. I mean, like I said, I've been saying this for a while. This is a historically peaceful protest situation. There's not like a similar story to this out there. Like, and that's not, trying to like hype it up too much. But I mean, like, this is some very important stuff going on. And like, while it might not be relevant to, be so interested in watching the recap every single day, especially if days are very similar to one another. It's one thing that, it's important to keep in mind that this is happening every single day. This is something that people are doing, myself included, every single day. And it's probably not going to stop. Because, again, like, it looks like the 7 sheriff deputies that killed Andrew Brown are not going to face any charges. Like, and even if they do, right, and even if they do get sentenced, like, we live in North Carolina, the jury will probably find them innocent or whatever. Right, so it's like there's really no track here for any sort of positive gains. And now we should continue protesting for those gains, and that's obviously why we should be. I'm not trying to be a doomer about this, because I think the number one thing about community organizing and protesting like this is that people are getting to know each other. Like, again, 38 days ago, if you would have shown me this photograph, right? If you would have shown me this photograph 38 days ago, I'd be like, oh, that sounds cool. I wonder what's going on, right? Like, I wouldn't know any of these people in this photo. I would have, no idea. No idea who they are, right? But now, right, on day 38, today will be day 38, I know who everyone in this photograph is. I have had personal conversations with most people in this photograph, right? And, we're going to continue to engage with one another, and we're going to continue to know one another, and we're going to continue to build that community solidarity. And so, like, that's something that's really important to understand, is that really this is kind of like an origin story for Elizabeth City when it comes to protesting. Like day 1 and day 2, I didn't know anyone out there, and now it's day 38, and I can tell you that I know almost everyone out there. I've at least had a conversation with almost everyone at some point, right? And so, like, again, that's the number one thing, and that's what I want to keep, like, emphasizing on this, is that yes, is it okay, or is it annoying that, some of the protests day to day are, like, very compliant with police and stuff? Yes, I think especially after police almost got us killed the other day, the idea that we're still filing permits, I think, is in a way personally insulting. But that being said, again, the number one thing that does grow from a day-to-day basis is the community bond and the solidarity feeling that people share with one another. Especially after the car attack. So here we are. We're walking down through residentials again. We walk down through the other. Look at this fucking kid. Look at this kid. I love this kid. This kid's amazing. Let me put this up. Right, that's amazing. Like, God bless. Like, start the kids out early, right? And so, like, when we go through the residential areas, right, sometimes we pick people up and, like, they join the protest, and it's like maybe they've come out a couple days, but they're not, like, super into it, right? And so, like, that usually happens, and then we, like, have chances to meet new people, get them more involved. Today, I think, if today is Friday, I think it's Friday. It looks like it's Friday. According to my computer calendar, it's Friday. Today, we're going to be doing a community party at a park, and so we're going to march, and then we're going to have a party up until the evening. And so that's going to be fun. And so look forward to that, folks. I will be covering that, and that should be a good time. So we went through the neighborhoods. People are getting loud. People are getting proud. And yeah, so we go back downtown. I got this really nice shot here with the sun. I just really like the sun. The sun was so big. Like, look how big the sun is. Like, why is it so goddamn big? But yeah, I mean, like, yesterday was a relatively good day. We we did our thing. We got some people involved, and we're going to be doing a community cookout today. And so we're going to march beforehand, and then we're going to try to pick people up on the way to the cookout, and then we're going to do that, and that's going to be happening until, I guess, the nighttime. I'll probably be out most of the night. Yeah, so I mean, yesterday was a good day. Again, it's not like we're not every single day, and I know, the reason I want to say this is because there are a lot of skeptics that I know watch the show, and there's a lot of skeptics that I know don't watch the show but live in Elizabeth City, and I want their perspective to be a little bit heard in a public fashion, because Wavy isn't going to talk about this, CNN isn't going to talk about this, like any of the local news outlets aren't going to talk about this, right? And I just, want to be very clear that there are people that are very upset with the permits. There are people that are very upset with the fact that, we're not sitting and occupying specific locations for longer periods of time. And I 1000% understand that. But at the same time, again, I think the number one thing right now is forming that sense of community. Because, again, if, everything that happened in the first week of Andrew Brown protests was relatively, radical, right? We were occupying streets for 8 hours a day. We were occupying the bridge for 8 hours, right? And so, and that was a time where no one really knew each other that well, right? And so, if we, are in a position where it's let's say it's day 73, right? And we want to start ramping up, but we all know each other now, right? And we're all, we all have that, sense of community and that solidarity, right? Then that's going to go a little bit longer of a way, and that's going to be a more effective protest, right? So I just want to be very clear that that's my opinion on the subject. Yes, do I think the permits are stupid? Yes, do I think that just marching and doing nothing else is a little silly and a little redundant? Yes, I do think that. We should, and we are branching out to doing other things on a week-to-week basis. I believe next week people are going to be going to Raleigh and D.C. I'm still not sure if I'm going to do that. I might stay back and cover what happens in Elizabeth City while they go and do that. Not sure yet. But that's something that, people are planning on doing. And so again, I'm telling you this, on day one, if I knew everyone in the crowd on day one would have been a hell of a lot more radical. Same thing with day 2, same thing with day 3. Things would have been a hell of a lot more radical if I had known everyone by their first name, right? And so I'm telling you that right now, if something else happens, right? Let's say there's another police shooting in fucking November or something, and we've been continuing to protest every single day, and there's another police shooting in Elizabeth City, right? That, I'm telling you, right now, all it takes right now is, all we need is another spark, right? And we are building the kindling, I suppose, for the spark that will change things, actually for good. But that's a multi-step process. And again, who knows if it's going to happen, later this year? Who knows if it could happen 3 years from now? The main goal on a day-to-day basis at these protests is to continue what we're doing, right? We're playing the short game here, right? And playing the short game builds up to the long game, right? Again, building that sense of community solidarity. After 30 days, it's pretty strong. After 60 days, it's going to be pretty fucking strong. After 90 days, it's going to be pretty goddamn motherfucking strong, right? And so, that's what I'm trying to say here, right? Day to day, the most important thing, right, is making sure something happens every single day to keep that consecutive count going, because, again, the people in power want us to stop. And if people do end up stopping, right, it's going to sputter things out, and we're going to be in a situation where it's you go from seeing someone every day to never seeing them again. You know what I mean? And so, that's the situation that we're trying desperately to avoid here. And so far, we're succeeding. 37 days, going on 38, non-violent protesting. I mean, again, it's history. This is historic. And this is why I want to be so, I'm so entrenched in this, because, obviously I live here, right? So it's my duty to the community that I live in, number one. But also, as a YouTuber, right, no one else, literally zero other people. And I know, it's one of those things, but, zero other human beings in the history of YouTube are going to cover this as extensively as I am. And so, I feel there's an obligation there, right? So it's my show used to just be talking about national politics. Sometimes I'd talk about some, local-ish stuff, right? But it's everyone's going to be talking about Joe Biden. What's Joe Biden doing today? What's Chuck Schumer doing today, right? I'm the only one who is going to be talking about what's going on in Elizabeth City. And so I feel there's an obligation for me to do that, and I want to be participatory in showcasing the historic outpour of just again community solidarity first and foremost. And I don't really care if I lose half of my viewer base over this shit. That's whatever. Like, fuck them. And so, like, and I'm happy to go on shows like Matt Binder's show yesterday. Happy to go on shows talking about Elizabeth City. Because, again, I want to talk about, like, the car attack the other day, right? I went on Matt Binder's show to talk about Elizabeth City and specifically the car attack. And I've talked to local news. I've talked to mainstream news. And every single time I've spoken to them, I told them explicitly that Officer Parr got out of the way and let the driver hit us. None of them have reported that. I think like one of them reported like something like allegedly like something like that. But none of them have been like, it's only what they're trying to do is they're just taking police reports and then taking like one sentence from us, right? And then just saying, oh yeah, someone hit someone. The police, they may have been there. Who knows? Right? And so like, and that's why it's so important for like people like me to go out there and like to do these podcasts, and like there's a couple of other people that are going on shows as well. And it's important because again, the entire apparatus of like, how everything works in this city is, and I said this yesterday on Matt Binder's show, but on the governmental level and like media, like all of them, like the whole system are either corrupt or useless. That's it. They're either corrupt or useless, right? So Mila in the chat points out a week, or I guess 2 weeks ago, I don't know, time runs together, an NPR reporter put up a little tape recorder microphone like the ones you see in the Saw movies, right? And asked me like what I think about if the judge or if the DA should recuse themselves. And I say that they should be in prison. And then the NPR reporter just like takes the recorder away from my mouth and just walks away from me. Like, doesn't say anything, right? Just like, all right, this interview's over. I'm going to walk away now because I said that they should be in prison for covering up a homicide, right? Right, so mainstream media is useless. They're going to come out here and they're just going to try to do this whole, like, oh, people are protesting, and oh, police shot someone, and oh, the DA said it was justified, but the protesters say it might not be, right? And so it's like, it's ridiculous, right? And again, like, we have local newspaper here as well that, again, useless. They're useless. Right, the Daily Advance, the local newspaper, is useless. And when they do print things, it's mostly lies. It's useless. And so, again, that's why it's so important for people like actual community members to go out there and do shows like going on Matt Binder's show. And, I've been on David Feldman's show and that stuff. That's so important. It's so goddamn important. And more people need to be doing this. And if it's only me, and if people want to get me on their show to talk about Elizabeth City, I'm happy to do so. And, that's kind of the thing. Nah, they're not useless. They're complicit in the status quo. Yes, I agree that they're complicit, but I'm trying to be a little bit charitable. Again, God bless some of the city council members. A lot of them have been marching with us. We had a couple of them march with us yesterday. Right? And God bless them for speaking out in favor of the protests and all that. But, I mean, at the end of the day, they are useless. They are not going to be able to affect change when it comes to the governmental apparatus. They can be great as members of the community marching with us. Some of them provide us supplies, right? Like yesterday we had a city council member give us some first aid kits. That's amazing, and that's beautiful, and that's fantastic, right? But on the governmental level, they're useless. They cannot make any change whatsoever on the governmental level. And that's like what I'm talking about here. So on a personal level, God bless them. They're great people. I love talking to them. And and it's great when they show up and they give us water, when they give us snacks, when they give us like first aid kits, and they give us all kinds of stuff. Sometimes they give us signs, right? And so that's wonderful and that's fantastic. But at the end of the day, a lot, like, they can't do anything. You know what I mean? But, like, also, look at other cities. Are there other cities where city council members are marching with protesters as often as they are here? I mean, maybe, but I don't see that often, right? So, I mean, like, it's worth something, and it's good, and it's great, I think, that members of the city council are coming out here in solidarity. But again, As city council members, they're useless. As protesters and as fellow community members, they're extremely useful, and they're just they're invaluable, just as much as everyone else is. And that's what, again, I want to, we're not going to get any massive changes in Elizabeth City anytime soon, right? If we do change the laws in Elizabeth City, it's going to be as a result of a slow snowball effect from what we're doing right now. The next election is this fall, right? Now, can we organize enough to affect that election and actually maybe maybe, but also probably not, right? And so we have to plan out when's the next election, right? We have to plan out, well, should we even bother with elections? What if we just do mutual aid programs? And what if we just do community gardens? And what if we just do housing programs? And what if we do fundraisers and just say, fuck the government, we don't need them, right? And these are all things that people are discussing. And so, I'm just, it's very important to note that, this is not a situation where it's in Minneapolis, where you've got, a district attorney or someone like that, a governor or whatever, who's, somewhat sympathetic or whatever, This is a situation where every step of the way, right, they're either useless or they're outright corrupt and they're against us. And so that's the thing you need to understand. There is no one in any position of power that can do anything good for our movement right now. And that's something that we have to deal with, that we have to reckon with. And there's multiple ways of reckoning with that. Organizing and trying to get people into those governmental apparatuses, right? Get more people into them. And these are not mutually exclusive, but then also do community programs mutual aid in the form of food programs, housing programs, fundraisers for people that can't pay their electricity bills, right? That kind of stuff, right? We need to do all of the above here. And then, again, the more community solidarity we have, the bigger of a block we have to affect change. What if we got everyone in Elizabeth City's, food industry, to unionize? Possible, right? What if we got all the fast food workers in Elizabeth City to just say, you know what? We're going to walk out of work and we're all going to unionize. It's possible. I could see something like that happening in, a couple months, maybe a year, right? And so that's the kind of stuff that we should be building up to, right? Yes, it's important to demand justice in the case of Andrew Brown, right? But it's also important to understand you don't want to set yourself up for something that's not going to happen, right? We need to focus on goals that are more achievable in the shorter term and in the longer term, and give us stuff to work toward that is totally achievable. And again, when it comes to mutual aid programs, this is 100% in our control. When it comes to the government and when it comes to all that, that's 0.1% in our control, if anything at all. Right? But when it comes to building mutual aid programs, we don't need the government for that. Right? We don't need that. And so, again, this is the kind of stuff that people are talking about. And I'm trying to, provide that sort of megaphone for their ideas and for the things that they want to say and the things that they're saying. And again, I agree with a lot of this. Y'all know me. I've been against the permit shit since day one. So that's my situation. But we have Max the dog here. Woofing around. Hello. Max the motherfucking dog. Hey, bud. Look at his paw. Anyway, so that's day 37. Good March, good vibes, and today we're going to do a cookout and party at a neighborhood park. And it's going to be great, and I'll get you some footage, and we're going to have a good time. So there you go.